were the three men that were responsible for the French Revolution to have broken out. You know what Voltaire says about India? I am reading out before you verbatim what he has said about India. I am convinced everything has come down to us from the banks of Ganga, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, etc. Everything has come down to us from the banks of Ganga, astrology, astronomy, mathematics, etc. He continues to say, it is important to note that some 2,500 years ago, Pythagoras went to India to study mathematics under the Hindus from Samos in France, in Italy. He would not have undertaken such a strange journey if the reputation of the Hindus in Europe as a learned race had not been long established. Do you understand? Pythagoras came to India somewhere in 6th century BC. Why he came to India? To learn mathematics. In mathematics, we come across Pythagoras' theorem. The theorem says the square on the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle is equal to the combination of the squares on the other two sides of the same triangle. Today we say Pythagoras discovered that. Remember, Pythagoras did not discover. Indians knew it much before him. He learned it from Indians, and unfortunately today we say it is Pythagoras. Remember, mathematics was taught to the world by Indians and not by Pythagoras. Another tribute paid to Indians by one of the founders of Berlin University. His name is Friedrich von Schlegel. Berlin is the capital of Germany. The man says, no language in the world, including Greek, has the philosophical precision and the perfection that Sanskrit has. No language in the world, including Greek, has that philosophical precision, clarity, and linguistic perfection that Sanskrit has. This great India is not only at the origin of everything, she is superior in everything, intellectually, religiously, politically, and even the Greek heritage seems pale in comparison. Yes, give a clap. This is said by the founder of Berlin University, not by Swami Nirbhayananda. The Germans are so much impressed by the fact that it is from India that everything has come, whether it is language or whatever it is. And my dear friends, remember, the greatest contribution of Indians to the world is its literature. And the greatest literary form today we have in our midst is in the form of Vedas. But unfortunately, most of you don't know what Vedas is, how it appears, what does it contain. You know the worth of the Vedas? How much valuable that Veda is? One American by name Henry David Thoreau, American contemporary culture today is built by three of the greatest Americans that have been working on this for the past 2-3 centuries. Of course, presently none of them is alive. The greatest American cultural, literary, political figures, intellectual figures are Emerson. One is Emerson. If you have studied about American literature, American history, you will come to know these three stand out as the champions, the builders of America, culturally, intellectually. One of them is Emerson. The another one is Henry David Thoreau. The third one is Walt Whitman. You know what Henry David Thoreau says about Vedas? One sentence in the Vedas is worth the state of Massachusetts many times over. Many times over. One sentence in the Vedas is worth the state of Massachusetts many times over. You know what is meant by the state of Massachusetts? Just as Karnataka is one state in India, Massachusetts is one state in USA, United States. You know where that is? It is in the eastern coast. It is in the state of Massachusetts. There is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It is in Massachusetts. You have the best university in the world, Harvard University. It is in Massachusetts that you have got the best law school in the world, where from Barack Obama got his law degree. The best engineering college, the best university, best school of economics, best school of law in the whole world. They are all there in the state of Massachusetts. But here is one American who is saying not only MIT, not only Harvard University, not only School of Law, not only School of Economics, even the whole Massachusetts state, if it is multiplied 100 times, it will not be equal to one sentence in the Vedas. This is your great India. This is your great India. Another person, Emerson, the second great person among the Americans that have been responsible for building their culture is Emerson. What does this Emerson say? The Vedas haunt me. In them I have found eternal compensation, unfathomable power, and unbroken peace. And Voltaire continues to say, Voltaire of France, he continues to say, the Vedas was the most precious gift for which the West had ever been indebted to the East. The greatest philosophical figure, one of the greatest intellectuals in the West was Friedrich Max Muller, who has translated all the Vedas, Buddhist scriptures, Jain scriptures, etc. into English. He has written some 36 books, and all these books are there today under the title The Sacred Books of the East. Friedrich Max Muller was a remarkable man. He was most respected man in the whole West. You know how much of respect he was commanding even from the community of scientists during those days. When Thomas Alva Edison discovered gramophone, he came to Friedrich Max Muller to record first his voice. There were so many Americans. There was President of America only, President of America himself in America. But Thomas Alva Edison wanted to record the voice of Max Muller first in the machine that he had invented, not that of President or Prime Minister or the richest man in the world. That was the respect Max Muller was commanding from all the sections of the West. Such a Max Muller, what he says about the Vedas? He says, Vedas fill a gap which no other literary work in any other language can do. I maintain that for anyone who cares for himself, for his ancestors, for his own intellectual development, the study of the Vedas is indeed indispensable. What a wonderful tribute that he has paid to the Vedas. And another scientist, the scientist who discovered atom bomb. Can you pronounce his name? Huh? Einstein. Einstein is not the man who invented atom bomb. He invented the philosophy of the atom bomb. But bomb itself was not invented by Einstein. Who is the scientist that discovered that? Huh? Who? He was Robert Oppenheimer. Robert Oppenheimer. This great Robert Oppenheimer, the father of atom bomb, has said about Vedas like this. Access to the Vedas is the greatest privilege the present century may claim over all previous centuries. Access to the Vedas is the greatest privilege the 20th century may claim over all previous centuries. Remember, my dear friends, this Veda was discovered by Indians some 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. Swami Vivekananda refers to all these things. When Vivekananda was talking about Buddha in London, when he was delivering a lecture about the great Buddha in the capital of England, London, one of the professors that was in the audience stood up and asked him a question. A very pertinent question indeed, and a fitting answer too. The question that was asked was, "Sir, if Buddha was so great as you said, why did he not come to England for preaching? He should have come to England. You said Buddha was so great, his teachings are so great, well, okay. But why he didn't feel like coming over to England and give us the benefit of the enlightenment that he had received as a result of his tapasya?" You know, Vivekananda was an extraordinary man. His brilliance was matchless. He had that tremendous presence of mind. When a professor asked this question, immediately the reply that Swamiji gave was, he stared at the professor for a while, as though it was a childish question, and asked the professor, "My dear professor, when Buddha was there in India, can you please tell me where your England was?" Where your England was? India had reached the zenith of civilization, even while Europe was still living on the branches of trees, painting itself blue. What is the meaning of it? Why hesitate to give a clap? Give a heartful clapping. Europeans had not evolved into human beings yet from the state of chimpanzee. Europeans were still in the state of chimpanzee when Buddha was there in India. But remember, Swamiji continues to say, one more sentence, he continues to say, that is very interesting. India had reached the zenith of civilization when you were still there in the subhuman species. India had reached the zenith of civilization when you were there still in your subhuman state. This is okay. Veda is okay. What about the contribution of Indians for intellectuality? As far as the brain work is concerned, how much intelligent the Indians were? I have certain quotations from notable figures from the different parts of the world. Mark Twain. You know Mark Twain, an American humorist, a great literary figure. You know what he says about India? Our most valuable and instructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India and India only. Our most valuable and instructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India and India only. Hegel, a German philosopher, a very notable German philosopher, he says, India has created a special momentum in the history of man as a country to be searched for knowledge. As a country to be searched for knowledge. John Wheeler is a great scientist. If you happen to go to America, you please go to Princeton University near New York. There, you will find a great physics department where Einstein worked and John Wheeler also worked. Both of them were Nobel laureates. Both of them were Nobel laureates. This John Wheeler, who occupied the chair of Einstein, after the retirement, after the death of Einstein, he says, it is very curious to note that Niels Bohr, the father of chemistry, Schrödinger, the father of quantum physics, Robert Oppenheimer, the father of atom bomb, they were all Upanishad scholars. They were all Upanishad scholars. It is curious to note, it is very interesting to note that father of chemistry, father of quantum physics, father of atom bomb, they were all Upanishad scholars. Why they studied Upanishads? Because they had no other business. They had lot of free time. Nobel laureates, they had lot of free time. They studied Upanishads because Upanishads helped them in their invention of so many things in physics. In the invention of physics, Upanishads very much helped them. How? You all have heard of the great Shankaracharya. How many of you here are the students of science? Please raise your hands. How many of you are the students of science? Yes. Why do you hesitate? I am not going to ask you any question. Bring down your hands. Yes, another 5 minutes. I am concluding my speech, my dear friends. In quantum physics, we come across a very important information. What is that important information? Quantum physics will say that we can't with all certainty say whether there is electron at all. Quantum physics is saying we can't say whether electron exists at all. We can't study electron fully. We don't know all about an electron. Why? If you try to know the position of the electron, you can't know the velocity of the electron. If you try to know the velocity of the electron, you can't know the position where it is. Unless you know the position where it is, you can't know its mass. Unless you know the mass of a material, mass of a particle, it means to say you don't know even the fundamental information about that. The first and the foremost thing that you need to know about something, about anything is the mass of it. Today, if you say the mass of an electron is 1.008 angstrom units or anything of that kind, whatever unit you may use for that purpose, it is an inferential calculation. It is not exact. It is an inferential calculation. Quantum physics is saying, quantum physicists are saying that there may not exist an electron at all. No particle is there. Particle physics is gone. Now, we are studying, we are saying only there is field, one infinite field. Because in the hollows of an atom, it's possible for you to see one universe. In the empty space around the nucleus, you can find one universe. One whole universe is there. Whatever that is there in the whole universe outside, all those things are there in the space between the nucleus and the outermost orbit. We are in a riddle. We don't know what exactly is the nature of the structure of atom. This is what the quantum physicists are saying. What do they say? If you know the position, you can't know the velocity. If you know the velocity, you can't know the position. In the 8th century AD, Shankaracharya has said the same thing in one of his books. He did not go to America. He did not go to Indian Institute of Science. But he knew. How did he know? This is Indian intellectual brilliance. In one of the sentences we come across in an important book of Shankaracharya, he has written, listen, your attention please. He has written, Sthiti Gatyopi Ekatraha Asambhavat. Sthiti Gatyopi Ekatraha Asambhavat. That means to say, if you know the sthiti of an electron, you can't know the gati. If you know the gati, you can't know the sthiti. Gati is movement, velocity. Sthiti is position. Ekatraha, simultaneously. You can't know simultaneously the position and the movement or the velocity of an electron. You know, like that, I have hundreds of examples. My dear friends, in another 4 or 5 sentences, I am going to conclude my talk. Before that, I would like to tell you, no country is an advanced country unless it has intellectually developed itself. Please remember, it is easy to become a rich man. Even a dull-headed fellow can become a rich man. But to become rich in intellectuality, a greater evolution, a greater level of advancement, a greater level of development is very badly, invariably needed. If a man is with a strong physique, you don't give him any Nobel Prize. If a man has got a strong intellect, great intellect, you give him a Nobel Prize. No physically strong man can change the course of the history of the world. An intellectually strong man can change the course of the history of the world. A person, a scientist that invented electricity has brought about a revolution in the world today. A man that invented a telephone, a man that invented a Doordarshan, a television, they all have brought about revolutions by their intellectual powers. The physical power is not as great and as strong as the intellectual power. Similarly, the spiritual power is 1,000 times greater than the arm power or the military power. An intellectually strong man can become the hero of the world. A physically strong man cannot become the hero of the world. India came to know of this. From that day onwards, it gave all its energy, attention, and time for developing intellectuality, for developing the spirituality, even to the neglect of developing the military power. As a result, our military was neglected. Our intellectuality grew. Our spirituality grew. We have no regrets for that. Greeks were militarily very strong. But today, where are Greeks? Their civilization has disappeared. It has gone to oblivion. They are blotted out of existence. Romans were strong. Where is Roman civilization today? Persians, Greeks, Egyptians, Mesopotamians, they were all very strong. Out of 23 civilizations of the world, only 2 have survived. One is India and the other one is China. 21 civilizations have disappeared. They are untraced. We don't know where they are. They were all very strong. But we too alone have survived because we developed our intellectuality and spirituality. If according to Darwin, only that which is fittest will survive, survival of the fittest is any meaningful statement, we have survived. Then who is more fit? Is India more fit or Greek more fit? Therefore, we are the fittest race. For the reason we developed intellectuality and spirituality. But unfortunately, our motive was not appreciated and properly understood by the other savage nations, uncivilized nations. We should have developed our military strength also, or we should have developed our intellectuality and spirituality not to the exclusion of our military power. Such a great country like India had to suffer the centuries-long damnation, the centuries-long slavery, because our fullness of heart, our fullness of intellectuality could not be understood by the barbarians that came from the West. Instead of respecting us, they exploited us. Instead of honoring us, they insulted us. They should not have insulted us. They should not have humiliated us. But they did. Why? They were so backward in their evolution, they could not understand the greatness of India like Aristotle understood. Doesn't matter, okay. Those days are gone by. For the past 2-3 decades, for the past 50 years, India has shown that even militarily, we are not next to anyone. We are not going to be next to anyone. Even militarily, we are going to strengthen ourselves. You go to America, the richest section in American society is Indians. Indians are the richest people in America. After all, the Indian population in American society is only 1%. You know the percentage of medical students in American medical colleges? Though Indian population is 1% of American population, nearly 20% of medical students in American colleges are Indians. That is our brain power. That is our brain power. The richest man in England is an Indian, Lakshmi Vilas Mittal. If Mukesh and Anil Ambani were to be together, they would have been the richest people in the world. When I was flying in America some 4 years ago, a teacher that was teaching mathematics and science in a New York high school happened to be my fellow traveler in the aeroplane. She was a Negro lady. After the exchange of pleasantries, after the mutual introduction, that lady asked me a question. Sir, I want to ask you a question that has been bothering me for the past several years. The question is, I am teaching science and mathematics in the New York high school for the past 25 years. To my surprise, I find the Indian students are the most intelligent students in the whole America as far as the subjects of science and mathematics are concerned. Every year, in the subject of mathematics, in the subject of science, the best 10 students will be given a prize. They will be awarded. Every year, we award. We honor the best 10 students in the subject of science and mathematics. Every year, more than 5 students will be of Indian origin. She asked me one more question. Why is it, sir, in your Indian families, do you give your children any special training in the subject of mathematics and science in their childhood days? I told her, Madam, it is in our blood. It is in our blood. Because the greatest mathematicians, the greatest scientists today the world is seeing are from India. Before Barack Obama became the president of America, in the previous presidential election, one of the presidential candidates in America during his campaign days came out with a promise to all the Americans. These Indian engineers have come to India and they are grabbing all our jobs in our country. We are outsourcing all our software work to India and it is causing in some degree the unemployment in America. If I become the president of America, I will stop all the outsourcing to India so that our American boys and girls will have a lot of employment. This sort of a promise he gave. You know, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is the software king of the world now. When the presidential candidate gave this announcement, next day, Bill Gates gave a statement in the newspaper. You know what was that statement? My dear sir, you have said, if you become the president of America, you will stop all outsourcing to India. Remember, if you stop outsourcing to India, then I am going to shift all my companies to India only. The presidential candidate from next day onwards did not open his mouth to refer to this subject anymore. He kept quiet. Bill Gates today has faith in Indian engineers. If Microsoft is prospering, remember, it is because of Indian engineers. This is India. This is India. So therefore, when Vivekananda was traveling from Japan to America, Jamshedji Tata was a fellow traveler. Tata and Vivekananda became very fast friends. In the course of the conversation, Vivekananda said, Tata, rich people like you should start research centers in India because science and technology will have to have its fullest development in a country like India. Then you will see how by leaps and bounds the country will progress economically. Remember, in the whole world, if there is any one particular race that is capable of producing the best of scientists, it is only Indians. And therefore, you have to take some initiative in this regard. When Vivekananda said that, Jamshedji Tata agreed. Soon after, he came to India from America, started the Tata Institute, today which we call as Indian Institute of Science, that is there in Bangalore. One great scientist from America has said about the Indian intellectuality. With that, I am going to conclude my talk. You know what he says? Beautiful sentence. Please remember. What he says is, if we can just translate what Indians have in their language, if we can just translate what Indians have in their language to our own language, I think we will have answers for all our questions. We will have answers for all our questions. Even though this precious knowledge we discovered, we manufactured, we did not hold it only to our bosom. We did not hold it only to our bosom. We freely distributed our knowledge to any country and every country. We were no miserly. We were no stingy. We were no selfish. That is the reason Aristotle said, Indians are brilliant intellectually. Indians are saints heartily. Indians are angels. They are gods in their temperament. Therefore, my dear Alexander, India is not a land that is occupied by human beings. It is the land where angels, where gods and goddesses live. And therefore, go there. Give your salutation to India. Take her blessings and come back. ನನ್ನ ಮುದ್ದು ತಮ್ಮಂದಿರೇ ತಂಗಿಯರೇ. Many people here don't know Kannada. From your Kannada friends, you try to know what is meant by muddu tamma, muddu tangi. My most beloved young brother, my most beloved young sister. It means that my most beloved young brothers and my most beloved young sisters, like me, you also must always grow, or like you, I always grow, or like Vivekananda, both of us should grow to be the fullest patriots, or to be the most perfect or the absolute patriots of our country. We must not tolerate any insult to our country. We must not tolerate to see even one hair on the body of India moved, because it is such a sacred land. It is so much a beloved mother of ours. We owe a lot to her. In the history of the man, there has been no other country for the past more than 10,000 years that is as great, as saintly, as divine as India. When there is a BBC correspondent who worked in India for 20 years. You know what he has said about our India? He is an Englishman. What he has said about India, with that I am going to close. India is the only country that feels like home to me. That is the only country whose airport tarmac I have ever kissed upon landing. India is the only country that feels like home to me. The only country whose airport tarmac I have ever kissed upon landing. If this is the feeling of an Englishman, how much beloved our own India should be to us. Therefore, day in and day out, let India be your object of adoration. All of you must make up your mind. You must take a oath that you protect the borders of India tomorrow when you become military officers. Whether you become military officers, or doctors, or engineers, or the politicians, or sannyasis, whatever you may become, your topmost and first priority must be to see that India never suffers because of anyone. Because of anyone. May the great mother of us, the great Bharati, bless us all. Thank you so much.